Hi everybody, welcome to the Sportsocology Show. I'm Bill Knudsen. It is Saturday, June 7th, 2014. Hopefully you're having a great weekend so far. Just wanted to let you know that very soon, after about 4 months, I started doing these shows Super Bowl weekend, this past Super Bowl weekend. Very shortly, maybe as early as next week's show, I don't know, but in the near future, I'll be doing videos for my show, just like I'm on TV. So you can really see that, like my friends and family have been saying forever, that I really do have the perfect face for video. Great friends that I have. With friends like that, I don't need any enemies. But anyway, very soon I'll be doing a video. I don't know exactly where I'm going to be doing it. I record my shows in my man cave. So that's probably where I'll start with the videos until, I work my way up and get a little fancier and whatever. But pretty soon you'll be able to see what I look like behind the voice. But anyway, going to get on to business, some basketball, some hockey, a little football, whatever comes along. I've got some notes, did some research. But I usually do like bullet points and things like that, and that just leads me into speaking about other things. It's not like I have 100 pages of notes. But anyway, I'm going to get right into the business. First, I guess we'll start with the NBA. Game 1 was the other night. Heat and Spurs. Game 2 is tomorrow night, 8 o'clock Eastern Time. So it's Sunday at 8. It was an even game until about 7.5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. I know that the air conditioning was an issue the whole game, and it got worse, or lack thereof, air conditioning I should say, and it got worse and worse during the game. But it didn't seem to affect anybody much except for LeBron James. Now, he's had some problems with that over the years in another finals game, regular season games. He's had some issues with that, and obviously it tremendously affected him with about 7.5 minutes to go. And most of the last 7.5 minutes or so, except for the one driving layup he made, he wasn't around. And definitely the last 4 minutes he wasn't around at all. But for about the second half of the fourth quarter, he was completely out of the game. And the game was on the line at that point. And the Spurs just took over. Lights out. I think they were 14 for 16 in the third quarter. All 6 of the threes they attempted, they made. So I'm not going to say that the Heat lost because LeBron was out those last minutes of the game. Certainly it didn't help. The Spurs were on fire, but LeBron is pretty good at shutting down whomever he's going against. So maybe he would have guarded Green and not allowed him to hit all those threes. I don't know. We all know I want the Heat to win the series. I'm going to tell you during the show who I think will win the series, but I definitely want the Heat. But I'm certainly not going to say that, well, if LeBron was in there, the Heat would have pulled that game out. Is it possible? Sure. When you have the best player in the world, and he was playing really well until those cramps started to affect him, of course, that gives you a good chance to win. But the Spurs were just on fire, and I'm not going to take anything away from what they did. I mean, they were passing the ball really crisply like they usually do, whereas the first 3 quarters, I couldn't believe how many turnovers they had. I don't know, maybe the Heat didn't take advantage of those turnovers enough, or the Spurs were just able to overcome all of those turnovers because of their great shooting. I think they shot 59% for the game, but they shot 89% in the fourth quarter. So I think a lot more credit to the Spurs and just how well they played, rather than, well, LeBron was out, so that's why the Heat lost, and if LeBron was there, they would have won. I'm not going to say that. I give at least most of the credit, if not all, to the Spurs for how great a game they played. They were just awesome, and it kind of showed what the Heat are without LeBron. I mean, Dwayne Wade had a pretty good game, but once LeBron was out, he didn't really step up, and Ray Allen didn't really step up. The other guys really didn't step up, and San Antonio just completely took over the game. So I'm going to let you know what I think. If you've been following, I said that the Thunder and the Heat would be playing now, and that the Thunder would beat the Heat in 7 games because, as I've said, as of last year when the finals ended, I did not think the Heat would three-peat, and I'm going to stick with that. I do not think that the Heat will win this series. I want them to win, but I do not think that they will win. I think the Spurs are just too good a team. Their bench is better than the Heat's bench. I think losing Mike Miller for the Heat, he's a big three-point threat, and he was huge for them in at least a couple of the games last year. I think that hurts the Heat. I don't think the Heat are quite as good as they were last year. I think the Spurs are better than they were last year. And they also have that revenge factor that they really believe they should have won the championship in 6 games last year, the Spurs. And they probably should have, blowing a 5-point lead with 28 seconds to go. But I think all of that put together, as good a team as the Spurs are, even better than last year. I don't think the Heat are quite as good. The Spurs really want it. Not that the Heat don't, but the Spurs really, really wanted to get back against the Heat. And I think the Spurs will win it. Tim Duncan is playing still at a tremendously high level. You know, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili basically disappeared in last year's finals. But he looks like he's the Ginobili from years ago. So I think just with the Spurs being better, the Heat not being as good, and the revenge factor and anything else you want to put in there, I'm going to say the Spurs win in 7 games. Now, if they shoot like they did the other night, which is kind of hard to see, that they could continue to shoot at that level. But I'm going to say the Spurs in 7, and I'm hoping that I'm wrong because I want the Heat to win. But I'll say Spurs in 7, and we'll find out Sunday night at 8, Game 2. It would probably behoove the Heat to win because I have a hard time believing that the Heat are going to win in San Antonio. But obviously, if the Heat are going to win the title, they have to win at least once in San Antonio. I don't really think they're going to do it, but I think Game 2 would be the one probably to get if they get it. So we'll find out tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, but I'll go with Spurs in 7 and hope that I'm wrong. All right, I'm going to move on to a little bit of hockey news. The Rangers lost in overtime in Game 1 to the Kings the other night, and I was hearing some criticism from the coach of the Rangers and a few other people about their lack of effort. I watched the game. I thought the Rangers played pretty well. I think the Kings are actually more talented except in goal. But I thought the Rangers did well. They came out strong. They had a 2-0 lead. And the Kings came back, tied the game. And in overtime, the Kings got a really good break and won the game. It was a very physical game, I thought. I thought the Rangers played well, not perfectly. Neither team played perfectly. But, I'm not saying I know more than the Rangers coach. I certainly don't. But he knows his team far better than I do. But just from a fan's eye watching on television, it didn't look like they were making a ton of mistakes. It didn't look like the effort wasn't there. So I'm not sure I understand that criticism. But Game 2 is tonight, 7 o'clock Eastern, Saturday night, 7 o'clock Eastern. And I'm hearing that the Rangers really, really have to win. Now, you never want to go down 2-0 in a series. But the Rangers were down 3-1 to Pittsburgh, going to Pittsburgh for Game 5. And they won not only Game 5 in Pittsburgh, but they won Game 7 in Pittsburgh. And the Kings, as we know, they won 3 Game 7s on their way to the Stanley Cup Finals. At least one of those Game 7s was on the road. It may have been 2 of them. So I don't see where either team is going to panic. If the Rangers get down 2-0, they're not going to panic because the next 2 are in New York. and they're perfectly capable of winning them. If the Kings somehow, if the Rangers won the next 3 games and went up 3-1, the Kings aren't going to panic because they were down 3-0 to San Jose earlier and came back and won 4 straight. So I don't think it's a must-win for the Rangers. Like I said, you never want to go down 2-0. It's not a must-win. Sure, they want to win, but I think a must-win is a little too much at this point. The Rangers, I think, have the best goaltender, Lundqvist. I think he played well the other night. He had 40 saves, I believe. But I don't think it's a must-win. Of course, they want to win, and of course, the Kings want to get up 2-0. But if you have Lundqvist in goal, you're definitely capable of winning 2, 3, even 4 straight games because he's very capable of shutting down teams, even a team as good as the Kings. So I think it's a little bit overblown. Maybe the Rangers coach is just trying to get them to bring it to another level because the Kings are very good. But I thought it was kind of overblown that their effort wasn't good and whatever. Like I said, not that I'm an expert over the Rangers coach, but I was watching the game and they looked like they came ready to play. So I don't know. We'll see. Tonight, 7 o'clock, Game 2, Rangers and Kings. So check that out if you're a hockey fan. All right, moving on to Jim Irsay, the ridiculous owner of the Indianapolis Colts in the NFL. He gets charged with a couple of misdemeanors for the driving drunk. I believe it was back in March that he got. And he got a 1-year license suspension. There were no other legal penalties that I know of. He doesn't have community service. He doesn't have to serve jail time. And from my understanding, he's had issues like this before. I don't know if he had any DUIs or anything, but he's had, trouble with the bottle and things of that nature. And I'm thinking, if it were me that got arrested with that money and driving drunk and all of that, I just wouldn't have gotten a 1-year license suspension. I'm thinking I would have had to do some jail time, especially if I had issues before, with things like this. I don't care what anybody says. If you have a lot of money, you can get away with a lot more than people that don't have money. Obviously, you can get much better representation. The law is supposed to be fair and equal to everybody, but it's really not. Money does talk. It really does. The better the reputation you can get, not reputation, representation is what I was trying to say. If you're a billionaire, you can get top quality lawyers to get you out of a lot of trouble, even far more serious crimes. It helps to be loaded with money. Now, I'm hoping that the NFL, Commissioner Goodell, I'm speaking to you, will bring a heavy hammer down on Jim Irsay, because he has no problem bringing the hammer down on, the players, which I have no problem with. If you're going out committing crimes and acting stupid and damaging the reputation of your team and the NFL shield, you deserve the punishment that you get. So I'm hoping that Goodell, like me, will be kind of disappointed in what the law did to Jim Irsay. I'm not saying, he should do 10 years in jail or anything like that. Make him do a month or 2 in jail. Make him sit through the whole off season in a smelly, dirty, nasty, loud jail and see if that'll knock some sense into him. If he spends some time in jail without all his billionaire toys and freedoms and all of that, and he spends a few months in this miserable place, like the Indiana State Jail or wherever they would put him, maybe that will teach him a lesson to not act so stupidly. Get the help you need, get the counseling you need, and maybe straighten him out so he can go about, doing the right thing. That's me. I think, if I were in charge of things like this, I can be both. I can be merciful and merciless, depending on the situation I'm looking at. Now with him, I would have tossed his dumb butt into jail for a couple of months. I really would have. I would have made him pay like millions of dollars in fines to charities helping a lot of other organizations and people out. And I would have sat his stupid butt in a nasty, dirty jail for at least a couple of months to teach him a lesson. And I would have told him, if I ever see you in my courtroom again with you as the defendant, you are going to be spending a long time in jail. And I think, Irsay's not a stupid man. Obviously, he's done some stupid things, but, we all do. But I think that probably would have taught the lesson. I'm not sure. Just, a 1-year license suspension. So what? He has a limousine drive him everywhere he wants to go, or, has somebody in a fancy car drive him everywhere. That's really not a punishment at all. It would be a punishment for me, losing a license for a year. I don't have $1 billion to just have drivers drive me everywhere I want to go. So I was kind of disappointed in the law, but I'm hoping that Commissioner Goodell will come through. I'd have no problem with an entire season in suspension. He's not allowed to come to the stadium. He's not allowed to have anything to do with the team like they did to the Saints coach. He was suspended for an entire year in 2012. He couldn't come to the game, couldn't have contact with the team, So why can't they do it to an owner who does something incredibly stupid? But I'm hoping Commissioner Goodell is listening, and I hope he'll do something about it. All right. Now I'm on to something I just heard from a kid named Rashad McCants. If you're not aware of who he is, he was a basketball player at the University of North Carolina. He was with the 2005 national championship team. And he's making allegations of fraud, that people did his exams and he didn't even have to show up at class and he got A's, and that Coach Williams knew about it and things of that nature. Now, North Carolina's had problems the last few years because a few years ago the North Carolina football team that Butch Davis was coaching went through these same things. The players weren't going to class, people were doing papers for them, taking tests for them, blah, 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 so on and so forth. Is anybody really surprised by this? I mean, especially football or basketball or whatever. I mean, we're at these major universities. The University of North Carolina is one of the best academic institutes in the country. You've seen these guys on the football team and the basketball team. You see how they act. They can't even speak. You can see they're not very intelligent. And you're telling me that they're going to be able to handle the academic rigors of the University of North Carolina or Duke or Notre Dame? You see these guys. They can't even speak. They act so ignorantly. They speak ignorantly. Not all of the guys, of course. It's a sweeping generalization that I'm making. But you watch the NFL on a weekly basis. You watch college football. You watch the NBA, you see these guys are not very intelligent. I don't know what they'd be doing if they couldn't jump out of the gym or run 4 340s and catch footballs or throw the ball 75 yards or whatever. You hear them speak, and a lot of them sound very ignorant. A lot of them act very ignorantly. So are we really surprised? Do you really think a lot of these guys, a place like Notre Dame, Michigan, North Carolina, which is extremely, extremely tough academically, and you really think some of these guys are going to class every day, going to 4 or 5 classes a semester and legitimately earning these degrees? No. They're making a lot of money for the school, so obviously coaches, boosters, and whomever are going to make sure that they get the grades to stay academically eligible, whether it's having people take exams and write papers for them, or they take ridiculous classes that a 10-year-old could pass. I'm not surprised by this at all. And, I know Coach Williams at North Carolina denied knowing anything about this. I don't believe it. As powerful as he is, he knows everything that's going on at that school, especially with his own team. You're going to tell me he didn't know that players were getting these favors and getting A's they didn't earn and not showing up for class? Really? I mean, how stupid do they think we are? But I'm not surprised at all. Like I said, you've seen some of these football players, basketball players, and whatever. There is no way that they are anywhere near intelligent enough to handle the rigors of, what colleges, especially major colleges, expect you to do. You see how ignorantly they act and speak. So I'm not surprised at all, because we probably wouldn't even have college football or college basketball if it went strictly by proper academics. They probably wouldn't have enough people to put a legitimate team on the field or on the court. If it went strictly by academics, we'd probably have no major college sports, and all those millions of dollars wouldn't exist. So colleges are not going to jeopardize millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions, whatever the number is. They're not going to jeopardize that, because they know a lot of their players are not nearly smart enough to handle the rigors of that, but they're talented enough on the field or on the court to bring in all that money. So they're not going to jeopardize that. They're going to do whatever they need to do to keep these kids, especially the star players, academically eligible, to make sure they can keep making the money. But it bothers me. But, selfishly, without these guys, there wouldn't be much of college football, college basketball, or NFL, NBA. There really wouldn't be much to watch if it went just by the intelligence level able to get through legitimate college classes. A lot of these guys wouldn't make it. So we wouldn't have the leagues that we enjoy. So I'm kind of torn by that. But I'm certainly not surprised. It goes on in every college, every day of the week, so I'm not surprised. It's just like, getting money under the table, to kids. It goes on in every college, every day of the week. I don't care what anybody says. No college is 100%, legal. There's always a bit of shenanigans going on, probably more at other schools than others, certain colleges, the bigger colleges I'm talking, probably not much going on at smaller colleges, but at the big time colleges, things are going on to get the big time recruits, little money here, little money there, things going on under the table. Nobody's 100% squeaky clean. So I'm not surprised by it, and I think it's been that way for many, many decades probably, and I don't think it's going to change. So it's like, I don't know. It's kind of a sham calling a lot of these kids student athletes. They're there just to play football, just to play basketball, because they're not really students. But people a lot smarter than me will have to figure out how to go about taking care of this business. But, I just kind of laugh when I hear about it. I'm like, really? Is anybody shocked by it? Why is this news? But anyway, that's just me venting. All right, I'm going to move on to something else. It's kind of NFL related and NBA related. Jonathan Martin. Now, if you remember him, he was the offensive lineman from the Miami Dolphins that got bullied so badly, according to what I heard, that he just up and left the team during the season. Okay? Now, this man is 6'4", 6'5", and 300 pounds. Now, I in no way would ever say bullying is right. It is totally wrong, should never be allowed in any workplace, any school, at any age level, any place, any time. Okay? But really, if I'm 6'5" and 300 pounds and I'm on a football team, I'm not going to let anybody bully me. You know what I'm saying? If Incognito, like I hear, was bullying him, and from everything I'm hearing, it was true, Incognito, then he's a piece of garbage too, and hopefully he won't find his way into the NFL anytime soon. Probably not ever, I hope. But 6'5", 300 pounds, you can't defend yourself? If this guy tries to push you around, push back. Like I said, I would never advocate bullying. It's a horrible, terrible thing that should never happen. But you're that big, that powerful, you play in the NFL, and you're going to let this guy push you around? How about fight it out? Bullies don't like that. Growing up, I had a couple of kids tried to bully me, I fought back. They never bothered me again. That's the way bullies are. They pick on people they think they can pick on. Smaller people, little girls, little boys, whatever it is. Fight back. The guy's a 300-pound NFL player. You're going to let this other NFL player push you around? How about fight back? Punch him in the mouth. Again, I'm not advocating violence. You're protecting yourself. And if you had done that, I'm sure none of this would have ever happened. They probably would have kicked Incognito off the field, off the team, and Martin probably would still be playing for the Dolphins. So the reason I bring that up is he was criticizing LeBron for not being able to mentally and physically fight through the cramping. I'm like, are you kidding me, Jonathan Martin? You're talking about mental toughness when you're a 6'4", 300-pound man, and you let another guy bully you and insult you and push you around, and you didn't have the guts to stand up for yourself and fight back and end this thing? Obviously, Jonathan Martin has never had cramps like that. It happened to me about 10 years ago. I was umpiring a tournament, and it was one of those Georgia days, 95, 100 degrees, 95% humidity, and I was out on the field all day and all evening, and it was brutally hot, and I was drinking Gatorade or Powerade, whatever it was, by the gallon all day long. But I was sweating so much you could see like the salt crystals on my jersey. But later on that night, I went back to my hotel room and my body locked up. My legs just locked up. It felt like I was getting a bunch of knives stuck in my legs. They just locked up. I couldn't even walk. So if that's what happened to LeBron the other night, there's no way you could play through that. And even a couple of former professional athletes, I know that Isaiah Thomas came out and said, there's no way you can play through that. So I know from personal experience. Now, it went away a few hours later, but obviously that wouldn't have helped LeBron on the floor the other night. But I was in a lot of pain for a few hours. I couldn't even walk. And it went away during the overnight hours before I had to go back to the ballpark for the next day, and I was fine by the next morning. But I'd say for a good 2 or 3 hours, I couldn't even walk. My legs were in such pain, and they just locked up, that there's no way LeBron could have played through all of that. Now, I know they gave him like 2.5 IV bags after the game, and I'm sure that the last couple of days he's been hydrating big, and the training staff of the Heat has to worry about that and whatever, but there's no way, because I know from personal experience, and I'm sure a lot of other athletes, we've seen athletes die. Their bodies just lock up, they pass out and die. So that is not anything to be kidding around about. He is not mentally weak, physically weak because of that. But dehydration has happened to a lot of football players as well. And those guys are pretty tough, last I checked. And it's happened to them where they couldn't play and couldn't even move or passed out. And unfortunately, some have died as well, like I said. So especially Jonathan Martin, talking about the pot calling the kettle black, or people in glass houses not throwing stones or whatever. Jonathan Martin, really? You're talking about mental weakness? Yeah, how about taking care of your own house first? Taking care of your own mental weakness. Go get some professional help, because obviously you're too weak to stand up to a bully as big and strong as you are. Obviously you have some mental issues, and I'm not in any way making fun of that. I'm just saying, who are you to say that somebody is mentally weak for not being able to tough it out, really? Come on, Jonathan. Get the help you need. Keep your mouth shut. You've got a job with the 49ers. You're very lucky to have it. Keep your mouth shut. Get the help you need, and concentrate on yourself. And don't comment on other people, especially since you're one of the last people that should be able to talk about mental toughness. So anyway, I've got to vent some today. A few things just bother me. All right, now I want to talk about Jadeveon Clowney, the number 1 pick of the Houston Texans. Signed his contract yesterday. $22.272 million guaranteed. Over $22 million guaranteed. That includes a $14.5 million signing bonus, a little more than that. Now, I don't begrudge anybody getting their money. If I could walk into my boss tomorrow and guarantee demand over $22 million and get it, I certainly would. But last I checked, Clowney has not done a single thing in the NFL. And I'm guessing most rookie contracts are 4 years. So it's a 4-year contract. Over $22 million is guaranteed. So that means the total amount of the contract has to be quite a bit beyond the guaranteed money. I don't know. It said including a $14 million bonus. I'm thinking the bonus is 14.5, and the rest of the contract is the 22 plus million for 4 years. And like I said, if I could get that money from my boss, I certainly would. But he's never done a thing in the NFL. I don't understand why they're allowed to make so much money. Sign them to a 3-year rookie contract. And it's not a guaranteed $22.25+ million because they have never even been on an NFL field for 22.25 seconds. So how are they worth guaranteed $22.25 million? Now Clowney is the number 1 pick, so he should get the highest 3-year and set a minimum. Maybe, I don't know what the minimum is, but there is no way that he should be getting over $22 million guaranteed in his first rookie contract when he has never done anything in the NFL. You have to work up to that kind of cash. If he's in the league the first 3 years and he's getting double-digit sacks and he's causing all kinds of trouble and he's allowing other guys on the Texans line, because they're probably going to double team him eventually, if not from the beginning. And if he's causing all kinds of trouble and helping that defense, the money will be there. And if he shows himself the first 3 seasons, the money will be there for the next 5 to 10 seasons. But I just don't like all that guaranteed money. There have been so many number 1 picks and first-round picks that have been busts. They're just a big bust. Just look at the Raiders a few years ago. With their number 1 pick, one of the biggest busts of all time. They gave him $31 million guaranteed money. I'm talking about LaMarcus Russell. But they gave him $31 million guaranteed money, and he was an absolute bust just about from the beginning. But because he was very ignorant and whatever, he blew through all that money. That's more money than I'll ever see in 50 lifetimes. But, of course, because he's dumb, as well as lazy and all that, he literally stole. It's almost like literally stealing. $31 million from the Raiders, and they got nothing out of him. If they had given him a little bit of money for the first 3 years, I'm not talking minimum wage, I'm not talking about that, but set up a minimum or a maximum for first rounders, the number 1 pick. Maybe, I don't know, maybe $500,000 a year. It's a very good salary, what most people don't make in America. Give them a 3-year deal, a 3-year contract that's worth $1.5 million. So he's making $500,000 a year for the first 3 years. Now in the NFL, that's not a lot of money. That's like an average salary. Okay, you haven't proven anything yet. After those 3 years, if he's the Clowney that the Texans are expecting him to be, okay, then your $15 million a year contract will be there as soon as you've proven yourself. But, if they're giving him 30-something million already in signing bonus and, guaranteed money, $35, $40 million, what's the real incentive to go out there and give your best? Does he have that right frame of mind to do that? I think you should have to earn that. Get out there, show me your stuff the first 2 or 3 years. If you're the real deal and you put in, then the money will be there. But at least, when that big money comes, you will at least have shown for the first 2 or 3 years that you're worthy of that kind of money. Those kind of things just bother me. And especially, if you get people that are not really that intelligent, and don't really have the drive and go from no money to tens of millions of dollars, a lot of them are going to blow right through it anyway because they don't have the intelligence to go about it the right way. But why let that damage your franchise? Give them a set maximum that they can make, not tens of millions of dollars. Make it a decent salary, but still, he's going to work hard if he wants that big money that he gets before he even steps on the field. Make him earn it for 2 or 3 years. That's just the way I am. I don't know. Maybe you don't agree, but that's just me venting. But God bless him. He's getting all this money, and we'll see if he comes close to even earning that kind of cash. The last thing I want to talk about is hockey. Martin Brodeur, the goalie for the New Jersey Devils, has been their goalie for over 20 years. He's won more games than any goalie in NHL history. He decides he wants to play one more year, and most likely not as a Devil. Wants to test out the free agent market. He did a little bit 2 or 3 years ago, but ended up, he tested it, kind of put his toe in the water, but ended up signing with the Devils anyway. But as great as a goalie as he's been over the last 20 years, he just turned 42. Is there going to be much of a market for a 42-year-old goalie? I'm not saying he can't play anymore, but he can't play like he did, even 5 years ago. So he said if he goes as a backup goalie, it would have to be for a team that has a great chance of winning the Stanley Cup. Well, I get it. You don't want to go at 42 and maybe only playing one more year. You don't want to go to a rebuilding team. And he said if he goes as a number 2 goalie, it would have to be to a situation that feels right for him. I'm thinking there's not going to be a lot of interest. Maybe a couple of teams as a backup. Excuse me, I don't know. But I just don't see him going to a team that has a good chance of winning the Stanley Cup and being the starter. I don't think that's possible. I don't even think he thinks that's possible. But my guess will be that he stays where he is and retires playing all 21 or 22 years, whatever it is, as a New Jersey Devil. That's my guess. But if he does leave, he'll be a backup goalie somewhere else, maybe for a championship caliber team. In case the star goalie, their best goalie, goes down, you have a guy that's been there, done that for many years, has been all through the biggest games and the grinds and all that. So I'm kind of hoping he stays a Devil and never leaves, but maybe there is a spot out there for him. We'll see. I don't think it'll be a big money spot. I don't think if he got a starting spot anywhere, it wouldn't be a team that's in contention for the Cup next season. I can't see that happening. Stay as a Devil, play one more year, and go out as one of the greatest of all time. All right, my last thing on the hockey. Game 3, Rangers-Kings, Madison Square Garden. They just said the average ticket price is the highest ever for any game in hockey history. The average price at Madison Square Garden for Game 3. Now, I get it. I grew up in New York. Everything is flashy. Everything is high-priced, overpriced, big event, big deal. I get it. But the average price of a ticket is over $1,300. For that game, it's probably 10 times the face value. I don't know. If the Rangers lose tonight and they're down 2-0, I don't know if the people paying, and that's the average price, $1,300. So that means there are tickets probably going $1,500 to $2,000, down near the ice and near the benches and stuff. But I think that's crazy. Obviously, I certainly cannot afford to be doing that. But, maybe if I were a multimillionaire, I might do it once, but it's not something I'd be making a habit out of. But I'm not a Ranger fan. I'm hoping the Kings win the series. So I'm hoping that everybody that paid those $1,300, $1,500 per ticket for the Garden, unless they're Kings fans, I'm hoping that they're disappointed in their investment. But anyway, that's all I've got for today. Follow me, Twitter and Facebook. Go to YouTube, Sportsocology Show. Be a subscriber. Download that show. I appreciate you listening and doing those things for me. And hopefully you enjoy it. And like I said, in the near future, maybe as early as next show, I'll be doing videos. I'll get some help from people who are better at, the technical stuff than I am. to give me some help, give me some advice on that. But, excuse me, if not, next show in the very near future, you'll get to see my ugly mug on TV. I don't know if you're like me, but when I hear people on the radio, I kind of envision what they look like. I'm sure a lot of people do. And eventually when you finally see he or she, they never seem to be what you imagined. So I don't know if any of you out there have wondered what I looked like, but in the near future, maybe next week, couple of weeks, whatever, but in the near future, within the next few shows or so, I'll set up a video. You'll be able to see what I like, and we'll go from there. But anyway, have a great weekend. Enjoy all the sports. Don't forget the Rangers Kings. Game 2 is tonight. Heat Spurs. Game 2 is Sunday night, 8 o'clock. The Ranger game is on 7 o'clock Eastern, Saturday night. Get out, do what you do, enjoy it, enjoy all the sports. Have a great weekend, whatever you're doing. I appreciate you listening again, and I'll see you next time, America, wherever you are.